In this video, we're going to answer one of the viewers' questions, which is how to use timescales and how to enter dates and time in chart.js. And this is a great question. And if you look here, first of all, I want to show you where the question came from. It was from one of my other videos here, which I also recommend to explore, how to use the config setup for the line chart. And in here, FeatherJack06, I'm not sure if I say your name correctly, so sorry about that, but FeatherJack06 asked the following. Useful explanation and very well done video. Could you make a video on how to use timescales and how to enter dates and time in chart.js? Thank you very much. Yes, of course we can, and let's start to explore how to do this. To start with it, I will make first of all the default settings of our chart here. So what we're going to do is we're going to get in chart.js, we're going to get the default structure here. I'm going to copy all of this and I'm going to paste this in here. So make sure you have that as well. And with that, I'll give it first a proper indentation. Alright. Now it's indented. I'll put in 2 enters. And what I will do is here, I'll put in the ChartJS library. So we click here on Getting Started. Click on the sub-menu of Getting Started. And you can see here, this part here. Alright, I will copy this. Put it in here. Next, what I want to do here is I want to change this. I will delete this. And then nest a div in there with the class name of chartbox. Div class chartbox. And the reason I'm doing this is to avoid that the canvas will not scale into infinity. So we need to put in here a style tag, and in this style tag we'll say width for the chartbox. We'll pinpoint this class. So we say class chartbox, and then width 700 pixels. So we have a nice chart here with a fixed size. Alright, so we've got this now, and now what I want to do is first is I want to use the official style of how chart.js now starts to structure everything, and this is becoming very, very important, especially if you're going to use more and more different type of items such as React and Vue or Angular. These kind of structures are essential. So I'm going to build here these 3 blocks, and it will help you also to read the documentation better. And here we have 3 basic blocks: the setup block, and then we have here not the setup block, but this will be our config block. And finally here, this will be the render, or probably the better word will be the initialization block, because you will not really render, but you initialize the chart. If you watch my other video, I explained that even more specifically. So what we're going to do now is the following. I'm going to grab here the basics. What are the basics here? In our case, the data, all the data part here. We're going to cut this out, paste this in here. Once we did that, alright, we're done. And we have to do here only one thing. We say here constant. We say your data equals curly braces. Remove this curly braces here, and it will end in here. Alright, semicolon, there we are. So once we have that, next one will be the config block, which is the configuration, which is basically everything here. We start from type, data, and the options. So I'm going to cut this out. We say here constant config, and config equals curly braces, semicolon here, and then paste. Alright, very important this one here, we put a comma. So now we have this, and we have all of these options here. We could even break it into an options part, and that might be even useful in our case here, because we will have quite a lot of extras. But for now, I'll just leave it. Alright. So next, finally, is the initialization or the rendering block. Basically here, we're going to say constant my chart, and we get the my chart because it's the chart ID equal. And then we say here, this one is not curly braces, but this is parentheses. Alright. Semicolon. And basically in here, we're going to put in what we call a constructor. So we say here my chart equals, then we say document dot get element by ID. Oh, sorry, this should be a constructor. So we say new chart. Alright, very important. This is the constructor. And this constructor is basically creating an object with this name. So we say here document get element by ID. And here was the ID name, my chart. Put in there. Because basically what we're doing here above. That's what we set here up. This here we can ignore. ChartJS is now intelligent enough to understand that this is already a canvas, and we're going to draw something in the canvas. That's what this command means. So once we have this, put in your comma, and then we say your config. Alright, the order I selected or created it is exactly the order you need to use. So if I save this now, refresh, it works same. The only thing is that we have a new structure and order. Alright, so now we've got the most important one. Now what I want to do is the following. We're going to read here, and we're going to explore the axis here, because we're going to work with timescales. And timescales is a type of axis. It's called a cartesian axis, but not specifically cartesian, but it is a time cartesian axis or time series. So there are two types here. Do not get mistaken by those types. We will need most of the time this one here, the time cartesian. Yes, and the reason why is this the time series axis, which is called the time series, has the following distinguished aspect, which is this: the time series scales extends from the time scale and support all the same options. However, for the time series scale, each data point is spread equidistant. So you might say, what does equidistant mean? In short, or basically it's a short word for equal distant. As you can see, it's basically in there. So meaning that every item or every data point will be equally spread over that time frame. And this is not what we want. Sometimes you might have specific dates differently or time difference with different time frames. And this will be spread with space between there, but I will show you later on how this will look. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the type will be time, or will be specific time. So type equals time. So let me show you. So we are here in the scales, and what we need to do is in the scales. Why in the scales? Because we're going to pinpoint the scales here. You can see and then specifically the x-axis. That's the one we want to pinpoint. So we say here in the scales we say x-axis. I put in a comma here down, and in here we'll say type time. And this is a string, so we're going to put a quotation. And we save this. Once we save this and refresh, alright, now it gives an error. You might say, we have a problem here. No, not really. Let's check here what's the exact problem, or what's the reason why it doesn't work. Because our code is correct, the only thing what we don't have is this. Uncut error, this method is not implemented. Check that a complete date adapter is provided. Alright, go back here. And we're going here now, and then we're going to search here for the date adapter. This is very important. The timescale requires both a date library and a corresponding adapter to be present. Please choose from the available adapters. Alright, click on this. You will see here now we're going to get a specific value here, or the adapters. This is what we need. And I would recommend you not to use Moments anymore. Moments has been deprecated. They stopped developing this in 2020. Somewhere in August, I'm not sure, but somewhere in August or October. So they stopped doing it. And this is deprecated, meaning it doesn't support any future developments. And ChartJS is starting to keep on developing, so this is probably not anymore used. So don't use this one. Go for this. Or the other one, Luxon. That's fine as well. So I would just choose the data-fns. Why? I just take that one. It's fine. It's fine. It's still being updated, so that should be fine. So if we scroll down here, you can see here what it allows and supports. It supports 2.8 or later. I tried it with ChartJS 3.4. It works and it supports fully. So that's fine as well. You can use this. So we scroll down here, and what we need is the CDN of this one. And specifically this here, the bundle, where we have the adapter date. So I'm going to grab this, copy this, and then push this here. And we're going to push this in the following place. That's this one here. We have this. And now, once we have this, we can save now. Go back here, refresh. Alright, now we get it. But you can see here what happens is now we get only milliseconds. And we don't want this. So what is the default? The default of the time scale is basically on milliseconds. So we need to specify, not on the milliseconds, but in our case, for example, we want every single day. So what we're going to do here down now, we put in a comma, and then we're going to specify that. To show you how to specify, if you scroll down here, you will find somewhere the time unit. That's this one, the time unit. So time.unit, and we can see here what's the namespace, options, scales, and it's the x, and then of course here, so in the x we have that time, and then it says here dot unit. Let's click on time units, and you'll find here all the options. By default, it is set on millisecond, as you could see. But what we want is, for example, the day. You can do day, weeks, month, hours, depending on your data. But let's assume day is a quite common one. So we're going to say here, there is a time, and then we put in here a curly braces, then we say unit, and the unit is here a string. We can indicate here day. Once we have this, make sure that there's a comma here on the time for indicating that there's something else or a continuation, and then save this. Once we save this, refresh. All right, it works, but it's not done yet. Why it's not done? Because the data points are not being ran. With the timescale, you work with different data points. You work with X and Y data points. So that's what we're going to do now. It's very similar to a scatter structure. So we're going here, and in here, we're going to put in the following. Curly braces, and then we can just put this together because these can be together here. And here we say X value, and the X value would be a string. And what's a string? It will be the date. So let's say we go 1 week back from now. So let's say here it will be 2021 dash. So we need to use this kind of time structure. Dash, and then we do here, it will be June dash, so 06, and then let's say here 25. All right? And here we can do the Y value, and the Y value would be just a number in this case here, any number. Let's say here we make 20. Let's say there's 20 sales on this specific date, or votes. We can do this sales. That's all right. Then we're going to copy this. I'm going to copy this 7 more times. Nope. I don't know what happened there. That's not what I wanted. And then we have here, there we are. So we have this in total. All right. And we can change this. We say 6, 7, 8, 9, and 30. And today is July 1. All right. And here we just do some random numbers. Just rumble those numbers. All right. So now we have them. Refresh. All right. So now we have this. All right. And for some reason it doesn't show yet. So that's all right. But let's double check here what's going on to make sure that we have everything correct. So if I have this here open up. Oh, let's open up our things here. Does it show? No. Let me check. All right. After some checking, I figured out what it was. It's just a tiny mistake here. Everything was correct, but there was just one issue here. So I want to show you what the issue is. You can see here right now we have these timescale labels here. However, we have specified a label here above, and this is counteracting to each other because it doesn't understand what's going on. So I'm going to comment this out or just delete this. We don't need this. Save this, refresh, and there we are. So now we have it, and it starts to look quite nice as well. You can see here very specifically the items, including the time frame, everything. So imagine the following, and I can imagine here as well. So I explained about time series. So let me show you time series and why time series is so different. So if I save time series here and refresh, nothing happens here. However, let's put in here an example. I will change this. I'm going to put in a new value here. This will be 30 July. Save that, refresh. And now what happens with the time series, because equal divided. You can see here, this is here. Well, is it really equal divided to a certain extent? It divides this part here equally, as you can see, but this is just only 1 day difference. Pay attention here on the lines. You can see here, June 25, 12 a.m. and this is June 26, 12 a.m. So here, this is equal or equidistant or equidistant. You can see here, but then here, it creates all these lines, breaking it all down, indicating every specific date. And then here, suddenly from July 1 till here, July 30, basically has an equal distance of this, but the comparison doesn't make sense anymore, as you can see, because it's 30 days difference, while this is just only 24-hour difference. So that's what happens here. So it's equally divided, but not really in the same value, but just equally divided in itself. All right. So this is the reason why this is not always recommended unless you have a very, very specific reason for doing this. All right. Save this. Go back here. If I do this here now, we have a far more better structure here. Very similar to a bar chart where it understands that there's a real difference here, and it will create a difference between all of these items here. So using time is probably more common than using time series unless you have an absolute reason for that. All right. So we've got this, and now you say, well, what about time? If I want to do time, well, let's go back here. If I go here up, display formats, you can see here the units that we had, milliseconds, seconds, hours, days, etc., etc. So let's get hour. We grab the hour now, convert it to hour, save that here, refresh. Now we get these hours here. Of course, here as well, this will not make proper sense because this is 30 days different. So this entire comparison doesn't make sense. So I'm going to remove this one right now. Delete that and save this. Alright, so now you can see here time comparison. So you might say, alright, but what about if I want to set up the time? I want these all next to each other in time. Fair enough, let's work on that. So what we have to do, instead of this, all we do here is we can time, and then we can say here, let's say we want 13, let's say that's military time for 1 p.m. Alright, and then here we have another one. This will be, let's grab this and just put in this here. We put 14 for 2 p.m. and then we have 15, then we have 16, and then we have here 17, 18, 19 for that's 7 o'clock in the evening. All right, so we have here everything 25. Let's put it all 25 June. Let's save this, refresh. Now we work with time frames. As you can see, this is quite nice as well. So we have the time every hour. You can see it's being specified here. So this is basically what you do. You use this specific time frame here, and if you want, you can also do timestamp. So let's do this one. Let's assume we're going to grab the current date of today. So what you can do here is basically in JavaScript, you have the date.now. Once you do this, and if we save that, well, this will probably rumbles up the time frame, but that's all right. If I refresh now, oh, date now is not defined. Sorry. Date now. Alright, I was expecting date now to work, but for some reason it doesn't work. Alright, I'll just check just a minute. Oh, sorry. I just see it. I put in data instead of date. Save that. It should be date now, not data now. Refresh. Alright, so what happens right now is it just moves here. You can see here right now, current time is 11 and almost 11 minutes. So 11 o'clock and 11 minutes. Well, such a coincidence, but alright. You can see here all of these are now being matched. Everything matches here, and if you would even change this, let's make this nice into any other date. Let's be closer to home or closer to now, with like a day ago, and put in this, save that, refresh, and there we are. So now once we have this, and if we refresh again, you can see here, beautiful, it looks quite nice. So with this we work on this here, and we have this structure on this. So this is basically how you set up time, how you play with time. And you can see here, once you have this here, and this is really important, if you go here with date now, you can even parse it, meaning if I scroll up here, I'm going to scroll up all to the top in the time cartesian, and then you will see here something we're going to parsing false. Alright, so if you use timestamp, and if you would like to set parsing false, sorry, let me read it one more time. You should use timestamp if you would like to set the parsing on false for better performance, meaning when we have the timestamp here, these are the timestamps, set the parsing on false here, it will speed up your system. Why? Because it will first read this, and then once you have a timestamp, it will have to read this, convert that, etc, etc, but basically you can directly read it as well. All you have to do here, we go down here in the options, and then here in the scale, oh sorry, not in this, I want in the X scale specifically, we say parsing false, comma. So you want to notice it, but if you have more data, this will be eventually the part that has the biggest impact. Very, very important. So the more data you have, and use timestamp, use this will speed it up. If you don't have timestamp, you just use the standard structure what we have here right now, which is fine. And if you want to figure out how does this really look, because this is basically well, we can put in a console log, you can see how this looks like. It's just numbers in the timestamp itself. If I save this, refresh, you can see here it contains of a set of numbers. I think it's about what is it, 5, 10, probably 13 digits, counting it from day, year, etc, etc to millisecond. So this is how you use the time scale in ChartJS. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you enjoy it. And if you enjoy this video, you probably will enjoy this one as well. And if you're interested in ChartJS, check out in the description box the link directing to my ChartJS course where you can learn everything about ChartJS. And finally, of course, make sure you subscribe to my channel.